Hola and welcome to the MICA Podcast. This is where we have conversations with a special MICAN lens about creativity, communication, culture, commerce, and community. MICA already has a very strong community, one which we'd like to invite you to experience from this podcast and contribute to the conversation as well. So, we are starting out with a really solid one today. Here's a conversation I had with the one and only Shekhar Kapur, who's not only the most accomplished creative person there is and famous director, but also Micah's special mentor. This chat picks up his brain on various fronts: how to tap into creativity, how to be unafraid of your authentic self, and even delves into the age old philosophical question towards the end: who are you? Without further ado, let's get into it then. One of the first things that I wanted to ask you was, do you have a muse? Do you believe in the concept of a muse?
What do you mean by muse?
I mean, like, I don't know. If I read Stephen Pressfield's book on the War of Art, he'll say that the muse is something that you have to kind of invoke from the heavens, and it could be female, it could be male. It is basically some sort of source or divine intervention. I don't know.
I think my muse is fear.
Fear, interesting.
Because you put fear inside you and then you have to overcome it with hope. And fear and hope go together. So fear becomes the muse, most of us. If you really look down upon it, a lot of what we do, a lot of how we live, how we survive, is there is a fundamental fear, and being afraid is two different things.
Yes.
The idea is, hope and being hopeful are two different things.
Yes.
So if fear is like a fundamental human emotion. You fear, and therefore you're afraid of change, and you constantly fight it, but unfight it, And so we all try and get into a habit, come and sit on the same chair, come and do the thing as, to try and say to yourself, you want to have, things don't change, and then it changes. The fear of change, it's a constant conflict within the human mind and the human living.
So, but doesn't fear paralyze?
Fear of death is very common amongst human beings, and yet death drives us in the way we do things, with quite subconsciously, the possibility of death.
But fear has a way of paralyzing you as well, don't you think?
No. Fear as an emotion doesn't paralyze you. Fear as an emotion is very provocative. You climb a mountain because you fear you may not make it.
True.
You dream about going to Mars because you didn't make it. If you knew exactly that you would climb it and make it, or you'd get to Mars, you wouldn't want to do it. Fear and hope go together. They're two lovers that keep going with you all the time.
That is so interesting that you say that, because I could never in my wildest dreams think that somebody's muse can be fear. I've always thought of it to be, a sexier version of things. But you've now made me think. I was just wondering. It's a very interesting thing. Do you think that your internal dialogue and how you speak externally is aligned, or do you think that because maybe you've got fear inside, you'll have hope outside? How do you see that work in you?
Internal dialogue is so rapid. So what comes out has to be vocalized, and the vocalization comes after everything's happened within seconds. And vocalization comes, but even during the vocalizations, what you wanted to say has already changed, but you will start to vocalize it.
That is so true.
Bob Dylan said that, didn't he? Said that my best lyrics were written at as fast as my pen could write, or my pencil could write.
That's so true.
So you get creativity is downloaded from the universe or wherever you download it from, and you have to quickly get it to express it. So you just, by the time you express it, it's gone.
So your thoughts are always trying to catch up with whatever's happening inside, actually. In a sense.
Then you're trying to catch up with your thoughts.
Your words are trying to catch up with your thoughts.
Yeah.
How the hell do you manage it as a director then? Like, because there's so many things that you have to manage, and like that you're trying to get a certain thing as an output, and you're making the audience think in that way, but then you're
Yeah.
getting actors to think in a particular way, or how do you set it up?
You're not that much in control the way you describe it. You have to leave something to the fact that this is what is supposed to happen. The moment carries its own desire. The moment carries its own drive. You're just there to be trying to be one with the moment. And if you can be there with the moment that you're directing or thinking or being creative, then the universe acts in a very, very in a way that you would desire it to. But you got to be the moment in itself has its own independent.
But it's you know what, you're such so accomplished as a filmmaker. You're kind of like, for me, if I listen to you, it sounds like, oh, this is simple. But if I look at it, you're also kind of getting stuff out of your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because in order to channel that moment, right, obviously there'll be so many distractions, some guys irritating you, some guys not in the right place, and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, how do you do that?
That's all part of the moment.
Ah.
The fact that somebody is irritating me at that time, or I'm getting angry at something or frustrated. Frustration, then again, is a very, very essential part of what you're feeling at that moment. So it's all about the moment, and you're giving into the moment and adding to it your desire, your planning before, afterwards. If I directed everything as I planned, it would be very boring. It's not boring because it doesn't go according to our plan.
So
It
are you saying that if you had, like, let's say, made Mr. India, just like instead of a morning shot, you had done the next morning, or if you had done it in the afternoon, or just some, it would have been a very different film?
completely different. Completely.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
The way it evolved was the way that moment had dictated.
Oh wow! So you're kind of co-creating with the creator, no?
Yeah. If there is a creator, you're co-creating with whatever there is.
Yeah, the
So
source.
I call it the moment. You're co-creating with the moment.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, we're 2 minutes in or 5 minutes in, and I've already learned a bunch of things. Okay, so okay, let me ask you a different. I don't know if you've seen Dhurandhar, and this is not a political.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I've heard so much about it, but I've
Yeah,
not seen
so I don't want to get into the propaganda or the political side of things. I saw the film. It was in Wandsworth, and it was a full house on a Thursday, which was quite interesting. And there were Pakistani people and Indian people, and it was quite a desi atmosphere, really. And what I noticed was that people were sitting for 3 hours and 45 minutes. People were sitting. I wanted to know your take on, we keep talking of how attention spans are like changing all the time, and people are so used to short form content. And then we have something like this film that's come in, right? And people are doing this. How does this compute?
Yeah, but having not seen the film, I'm not competent to answer that question. But I would guess that a large part of cinema is an accumulation of short form content. So
Hmm.
if you're constantly changing, Manmohan Desai used to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're constantly changing something, the scene, the setting, the action, the song, and you're constantly throwing provocation
Hmm.
into the film, it creates short form content in a package, a lot of short form content. Yeah. And the cleverness of a director at that time, again, not seeing the film, lies in the fact that you are still following a plot line.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're
But
following a plot line with a million short form contents bits. But that's where, and you're following the same emotion, and that's that's the cleverness of the director.
it's a very interesting word that you've used, cleverness, because there's wisdom and then there's cleverness. So you need a bit of both, I suppose, as a director.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's okay. So one of the things that I did notice was, in Dhurandhar, and I'm not going to ask you because you haven't seen the film, but what I did notice was that he's split the film into chapters, right? And then you go into, so I'm not, no spoilers over here, but he split the film into chapters, and I just realized, my God, this looks like a Netflix series. Yeah. So it literally looks like a Netflix series. And so the deeper question is, the technology seems to be having it always changing the grammar of storytelling, isn't it?
Well, it's always it's allowing a different grammar to seep in technology as people experiment with it. So each time a new technology comes in, consumption patterns change.
Mm,
Then storytellers try and use that new technology
yeah.
to the story. So, I mean, now what's becoming really popular is micro dramas. That's
Yes.
different.
Yes.
Yeah, new
Absolutely.
technology. It's a old technology that's adapted into a new form, and people are loving it.
Where do you see this going forward? I mean, with AI coming in and tech coming in, how do you see this going?
I think that the content consumption is going up a lot,
Hmm.
um, and people are getting, spending more time uh, consuming content a lot more than they
Yeah.
used. And it's different content forms, and people seem to have, and they do have. We have people keep saying attention span are getting shorter. They're not actually. We have multiple ways of perception of
True.
storytelling, and therefore, and we have ways to, we're not getting more bored or less, with greater attention span. We're just being able to comprehend, consume, understand much more than we thought we would. But we always have done that. But it's just that somebody said, no, no. If you can't read a novel, you get bored. You have short attention span. That's not true.
That's not true. That's
That's not that's not true because imagine that if you were walking naked and not naked, were barefoot in a forest that you've never been to. Look at the amount of you're aware of what's pricking the bottom of your feet.
even a
You're
little level. Yeah.
an ant. You can hear an ant almost. That's how aware you are. You're becoming aware because then suddenly it shifts to survival mode. And the survival, beauty, the sense of breeze to smell whether there's danger coming across or is a flower. Our awareness is far, far greater than we think it is.
this
So,
is uh, this is fascinating because
yeah,
you're talking of the quality of attention and the way in which it gets absorbed. And what's coming to my mind is, like, I remember when I'm anytime in a theater, you sit, you have your popcorn, and you have the trailers coming and the ads coming, and I enjoy all of that. And then the titles come in, and then you're talking to somebody who's next to you saying, "Oh, ye bhi hai isme, I didn't know," and all of that. And then suddenly at one point in time your attention kind of just completely gets absorbed and you lose your sense of self.
yeah.
Do you know, as a filmmaker, or are you planning for it somewhere, or
But yeah, you're hoping for it. You're not necessarily planning. You are there, but you're hoping for it because at that moment you're dealing with different people, different
yeah,
age group, different sections,
yeah,
uh, and different ideas about their own lives. And
yes.
so you're hoping that somewhere in your subconscious, you're finding something that connects with their subconscious and the
Mm,
moment.
mm,
Of
mm.
course, with release of film, everybody has their own moment. So,
Okay. All right. Well, let me change tack a bit and ask you a completely different question. Okay. So I've been bombarded with people who say, no, you got to create content every day. Okay. And the more productive you are, the more content you create, the more creative you will get, and stuff like that. So that's one school. And there's another school which says, no, you can't do that. You're actually going to make yourself more mediocre in terms of your creativity if you keep doing this. Where do you stand on this, and how do you think it plays out?
it depends on what you want to do with your content. You can create it. Kids are, if you watch them with uh, children, when you watch them play, they're creating content with play constantly. You give them pencil, they're drawing and creating content constantly. The difference between the content that they're creating incessantly, they create content by through play. Uh, the difference is they're not looking to market it. So that's where the difference jumps in. I want to create what you're talking about, content that you want to create, that you want to put out to the world for them to appreciate it. They're not looking for appreciation for their play. That the teachers will teach them. Or whatever you do, you have to get appreciated for it. Otherwise, it has no value. So what you've got to, what we've been trained now that if you're creating content, it has to have value. Now, the value is not just a value to you as you are enjoying playing it. The value has to then be a marketable idea. And that's where it's going wrong.
So this is very interesting because you kind of delineated between the value in marketing and the value in create and content. And
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you, if I'm maybe I've misunderstood it, but the value in creating marketing as content maybe is when you can get more productive and stuff like that, because you're connecting it to value. Is that
And I'm not using the word more productive or creating value. I'm saying
okay?
as it's a self appreciation. Are you appreciating yourself more if you are being what you call productive, or people are appreciating you in whichever form, or you're monetizing it? That's the issue. It's how you see the content and yourself in relationship to your content.
Actually, I remember the question that I'd asked you in the MICA amphitheater, actually, and you put me in my place by answering something really interesting. So the question was, okay, do you have a process that you follow on a daily basis? And you said, how egoistic can I be if I have to think that I have mastered a process? So I'm going to try again in a slightly different way, because yes, you are right, and you can't have this sort of templatized way in which you can live. Is there something that you think you're doing more, a pattern of life that you're actually leading in order for you to tap into creativity? And you talked of observation, so maybe that's it, or something else. Can you notice anything about yourself that you're
Constantly observing. I find myself doing that constantly, obsessively observing whatever is going on around me and observing my response to it. Now, my response to it may be not necessarily the true response, it's my observed response, which may not, subconsciously, I might be responding to it in a different way. So, yeah, that's why people say, are you very quiet? You're not talking. I'm not, I'm observing. I do that a lot. Yeah. I always,
what do you think makes people stop observing? What happens?
when you get too involved with how people are responding to you,
Hmm.
and then you become conscious. So your thought pattern becomes, are people responding to me? Are people observing me? And so the observation, the awareness of that you are being observed to can cause you to not observe outside. So then you suddenly become self-aware more than you should, at least more than I think I should. So to let go and not let loose, so that you're not sensing being observed as you're observing. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
strong part of observing.
It's a lot to do with being childlike, isn't it?
Yep.
It's
Yeah, completely child. Yeah. And our biggest problem is when we are taught when we're growing up is behave like an adult.
hmm, yeah.
And बच्चे हो कब बड़े कब हो गए तभी नहीं should be the answer.
Okay, no, that's good. That's really inspiring. So I know that you are a chartered accountant who doesn't practice and who's gone on to the other side. Do you think that everybody should be creative, or do you think there are some people it's better that they're logical and they're better that they're money, whatever?
Well, it depends on what your external. I mean, I think most people we are all born.
Hmm.
First, then allow that creativity to dominate how we live. Some of us have been taught to creativity is also two things: as internally creative
Yeah.
and the expression of creativity. Unfortunately, we are taught not to express our creativity in a way because the society often considers the expression of your open and frank expression of creativity. The society sometimes has a problem with it and said, "ऐसे थोड़ी behave करते हो." You are already started to
Yeah.
expressing.
Yeah.
ऐसे थोड़ी सड़क पे गाना गाते हो. ऐसे पार्टी में कोई ना कहे तो हंसना शुरू कर देते हो. So we are being taught not to express yourself a lot.
That is so cool, actually. I was wondering. Okay, I'm going to pick your brains for 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to let you go. It's been like I want to pick your brain very selfishly. So, as a teacher, um, I'm wondering, sometimes because of YouTube and because of content all around and because of Chat GPT, I have no idea why people sit for lectures, right? And is there something that we can look at as teachers to make things more creative in class in order for us to add a different kind of value than maybe, any thoughts welcome.
I think you should make it as interesting. I think teaching is a method of co-learning between the teacher and the student.
Yeah.
One point, it dissolves. That barrier between teacher and student dissolves. Of course, you're imparting knowledge, but knowledge gets very boring.
It does.
So what you're imparting at that moment is storytelling. And then between the student and teachers co-creating stories. And embedded in those stories is knowledge.
Yeah, so it's more a pedagogical thing than a curriculum thing. It's literally something the way in which you can interact. Interesting. Okay, the one question down. I've got the answer for that. Second question, last question. I promise you. Suppose you were in a boring kind of corporate job and you were in a meeting, okay, and you were the boss of it, and you had people who are like bored with this humdrum sort of business that goes on. How would Shekhar Kapur treat a meeting differently in order for people to become more participative and creative? What could you do?
Try one thing. If I get bored and I have no control over what's going on in the meeting, I'll doodle.
No, but what if you were in charge?
I will try a different way of trying to create a story and check and try and understand how do people around me respond. Everybody responds to storytelling because storytelling is the only way we perceive anything. All perception is based on storytelling, our stories.
Yeah.
If you tell a story, you can't perceive anything.
Yeah.
So then try to sync everybody into perceiving through storytelling and then grabbing and asking for their attention. That's so.
You'd begin with a story. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, and no.
It doesn't have to start with that. It has to do with you can pick it up from anything anybody ever says, and you can start from that and start involving other people in the story. So in the middle of something that somebody says, you sense a story and then you take up that.
That is so cool. All right. One final bonus one. What's the question that I should have asked you, which I didn't because I'm, Well,
the question that we all ask is, but we just never answer is, who am I?
Who are you then?
I mean, the day I discover that, probably I'll stop creating or I'll stop. But who am I as perceiving myself as an individual when I know that actually I'm just part of the whole cosmos? And that concept about me, the burden of individuality, the burden of me having to be an understanding and being taught to be an individual, knowing that ultimately I'm just a collection of atoms and molecules and whatever lies beyond that molecules within energy force that is putting my perceived self together, but actually it's not. It's just my perceived self.
No. Yes. Okay. Quentin Tarantino said that he's going to quit after 10 films, right? And I don't know, he's gone on some bizarre rant about actors that he's not really appreciated in some really great films. And I don't want to get into that again. I don't want a hot take on that. What I'm interested in, he's kind of defined his own shelf life, saying, boss, itna hone ke baad main khatam. But you seem to be the exact opposite of that.
Because I'm not essentially a filmmaker. I make because they happen. So he defined himself as a filmmaker. I don't define myself as a filmmaker. I define myself as a storyteller, and I just tell stories, even telling stories to kids. So I'm not. Becomes a profession because you need to earn money somewhere. But otherwise, I'm not defining myself as a filmmaker.
That's brilliant. I think in a world of uncertainty, you've given all of us a lot of things. It's like those stones thing that you keep talking of. If you're uncertain, then it's the best way to be. And don't define yourself really, in boxes like normally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Wow, what a conversation, huh? Some great takeaways. Loved the one on the who are you question, which is an ever-evolving one. And his take on storytelling was something else as well. We're going to try and live up to the start we've made and invite exciting guests like Shekhar Kapur here. If you have anyone specific in mind you want us to get here, let us know and do spread the word around. Like, subscribe, comment, do the good thing and make this lens spread its goodness to as many people as possible. Let's make this community big. Go on, do something creative and amazing today.